Yes, people, we are live again for Lee Judges TV. Albert's Talking Points yet again, episode 2. But before we get into it, people, let's hit the intro. Yes, people, like Martin Tyler says, we are live at Lee Judges TV headquarters. Back for a second episode, people. Yeah, Tuesday night live. As you can see, people. Big up to the people in the chat already who are already there. Give you virtual waves and hellos. And like I always start off with, hit that like button for us. Hit that like button for us, people, and subscribe to the Lee Judges TV. So yes, Rowan, another victory to talk about. Before I talk about that victory, like I said to you last week when we did the first show, and thank you again for coming on. How you been, my friend?
Yeah, good. It's always nice to come on, especially after Arsenal win, and we're going through a good little run now as well. So yeah, excited to be on and excited to talk about what we've got planned today.
Yes, indeed. So yes, I will bring in when we talk about the game, because I'm going to start this a bit differently, Rowan. Obviously, we touched on what I kind of thought and sort of put it to you and the people in the chat about what I feel has been a sort of a mini resurgence, resilience so far, people. I'm not getting too carried away, but sort of this week, I want to concentrate on an aspect again of the team where it's always been a talking point. And when you sort of look at our squad in terms of our midfield strengths and possibly weaknesses, even when I was looking at it like over the last week, I thought, you know what? For us to have gone on the run that we've gone on for 10 games and beaten all competitions with probably not the strongest midfield, if I'm being honest, in terms of probably squad depth in the Premier League, but I still want to touch on the midfield and sort of what they've done this season, Rowan. So, we've got Sambi Lokonga, who's obviously joined Arsenal. Not a lot of people knew about him unless you watch Belgian football every single week, which I don't think a lot of people do. We obviously got Thomas Partey. Xhaka at the moment is injured. Mohamed El Neni. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, you can talk as a utility player, but I'll sort of bracket him in the midfield area. And of course, Martin Erdogan. We will talk about, obviously, the victory against Watford, but I'm going to bring in AO at that point to talk about that. But yeah, I sort of want to start off, Rowan, talking about sort of what's your kind of concerns or what are you pleased with the midfield? So in terms of, I'm going to kick off with Sambi Lokonga, actually, because I'll be honest, like I said, I didn't know too much about him. But in terms of the games this season in the Premier League, and people in the chat, people watch this on YouTube, I'll focus more on probably the Premier League aspect side of it as opposed to maybe in all competitions. But because Sambi's actually featured in all the Premier League games at some point, even if he hasn't started them, he's featured in every single game. Passes per match, Rowan 42.90, tackle success 81%, through balls 5, recoveries 44s, duels 132. And when I touch on the other midfield players as well, there's one kind of stat which, let's just say, needs to improve quite drastically. I'll come to that anyway. But yeah, Ryan, what's your thoughts on Sambi Lokonga? Did you hear much about him before we bought him? And what have you made of his impact on the team thus far?
Yeah, like you said, not many people will be watching the Belgian league week in, week out for sure. So I didn't know much about Sambi Lokonga, no. So when the actual links came out, it was quite interesting because going into the summer, it was imperative for me that we did strengthen the midfield of the team, and because we were very light in terms of quality and depth. I look at Arsenal right now and I see us having two, in my opinion, very good senior central midfielders in Xhaka and Thomas Partey. And then there is, kind of a level difference between the players behind. And Sambi Lokonga coming in, we didn't know much about him, but as usual, whenever we get linked with a player and in the end we actually acquire them, I want to do my due diligence and I want to actually look at them and watch them over games. I did the same with Tomiyasu and with Lukonga. I watched them over 3 games, and immediately I understood why Arsenal went for this signing, because he's another player who suits the modern game. He can cover space well. He's young, athletic, and he suits the profile that Mikel Arteta is looking for. And when you consider the money that was needed to acquire him and the age that he's at, it made sense. And Vincent Kompany, I think, was quite important to this deal actually happening. The relationship he had with Mikel Arteta, those two. So I think that definitely swung it in our favour. And in terms of Lukonga, we saw him in pre-season in those behind closed door friendlies first against Millwall and Watford, and I liked what I saw from him. A player who he just kind of adapted straight away. In terms of the way we kind of set up in our team and the role of a midfielder, dropping in to the back line at times, which Lukonga did in pre-season. He was playing on the left side of a double pivot in particular in those games, and he looked really assured on the ball, composed. He was quite aware of his surroundings, and it was really good to see. But obviously, in pre-season games, the intensity isn't obviously to the level that you're going to expect in the Premier League, and he was thrown straight away with no real choice Arteta had, against Brentford, because we were short in terms of options there. And I thought he stood up to the challenge really well when you consider that there were mitigating circumstances, players out due to COVID, injuries as well. And it being the first game of the season and the first time in which we would have had packed crowds, I thought he did really well in that game despite us losing. He was one of the standouts for me. And since then, it's been inconsistent in a sense, but I think we can kind of expect that from Lukonga because he's a young player who's still learning his trade. He's adapting to the Premier League and physicality. And what I mean by inconsistencies is I think certain occasions in games he does get caught on the ball, and I think that's just him understanding the pace and the tempo of the game. When you look at the game against Watford recently, in the first half, where I thought he had a good first half, but then late in that game he got caught when Tavares played that ball into him, and then Watford had one of their only real chances in the game in that moment. But I think he's been really good when he's actually been playing in midfield. And the reason why I say that is because when you go to the Brighton game, for example, where I didn't understand what Arteta was trying to do in that game. Where he was tasking Lukonga to drop into the left channel to allow Tierney to advance forward. And I know people will say, no, he was fulfilling the Xhaka role, but Xhaka has not been playing that role for a fair amount of time because the right back tends to drop back usually, or he tucks inside in the midfield, and that allows the two in midfield to stay a lot closer together. So him actually playing Lukonga effectively as left back in build-up made him look a lot worse, because I think that was his worst game in an Arsenal shirt, and I think that's more down to the way Arteta set him up in that game. Because if we just focus on that game, Lukonga, he's naturally right-footed, and Brighton pressed really well in that game, particularly in midfield, and they just covered all those spaces centrally and forced kind of Lukonga to go on the outside, but he's not comfortable going on the outside because he's right-footed, and those passes he could play in terms of forward weren't really there. So that was the game I felt he didn't do very well in, but at the same time, I don't think Arteta really gave him the platform to flourish. But overall, when you consider that he's a very young player who's learning his trade, he's done really well. And I think there obviously are areas that he needs to improve on, but I think we can be happy with the way he's kind of developed so far.
Yeah, no, fair play to you, Ryan. I think people in the chat are kind of along the same lines. I think what I mentioned about Lukonga is you might have heard me say it, Rowan, and people in the chat and people watching, that I always ask myself for midfield players, not even necessarily young players, but I kind of think I've seen it more so with a lot of midfield players. Can you pass the ball quicker than you did in that precise moment of time? Can it go second or two? And that's my only slight criticism of him. But I actually think that's a midfield problem itself. If you watch most football, midfielders for some reason think they've got more time on the ball than they have. That's across any league, but in particular in the Premier League, it's very frustrating. But again, as people in the chat said, and you eloquently put, Rowan, it's a matter of him adapting to the league and just that. It's a little thing to tinker, just to move the ball quicker, that fraction quicker, and that will come with time. But I've been very, very impressed with him. I didn't realize he's featured in all our games this season, more than I think any of the other than midfield players, but like more than by one game. But no, I've been impressed with him, and I think he's going to come back to you quickly again, Rowan, before we move on to the next player. he's going to become very pivotal because obviously with AFCON coming up in January 6th to I think February 6th. So I think roughly 2 games in that period. That I think the North London derby, and I believe it is Burnley at home, with the games that people that like the players that are going away to the AFCON will miss. So yeah, you know what? I'm going to come to you. I forgot. It's gone out of my head. I was going to say.
Yeah, I think he's going to be very important to us.
That's it. Sorry.
Like I said, all the criticism I've given to Lokonga there, I think you need to put context into the fact that, like I said, he's a young player who's learning to adapt his game to the Premier League. To come at the age he is at to this, the mentality, the pace, and the intensity. This is something that he's not used to, and I think you can kind of expect him to make certain mistakes. Even at times where he's not strong enough in duels. And he does get bypassed at times. That's things that he will develop as he physically more matures. And like you said, he is going to be very important for us in that period, because no doubt he will be playing in that spell of games. Because obviously, like you said, that period where players will actually be at AFCON, but they're obviously going to be going a little bit before that as well. So there'll be games where they might miss before that as well. So that's obviously something that I do worry about with regards to the depth in the team. But yeah, Lokonga is going to have to be an important player, and I think hopefully these early experiences that he's having, some of the mistakes that he's making, hopefully that he will be able to kind of be a little bit more refined in those aspects as we get into those games. Because no doubt, with Xhaka still out for a lengthy amount of time, he's going to get a lot more opportunities. So yeah, very happy with the way he's progressing. And again, another signing who you have to say the recruitment team have done really well in terms of specifying a specific profile, rather than just signing a name. A young talent who has a high ceiling and can only get better. So yeah, very happy with him, and definitely he's going to be an important player as the season progresses.
Yeah, you make a good point actually, and big up to GB in the comments as well, talking about obviously players need to be released before that quite sooner. So yeah, not just the Spurs game and the Burnley game they're going to miss, and even
as well.
Yeah, and even for when they come back, I mean, we've got, unless BT Sport or Sky decide to change the time of the games again, so we've got Wolves away on the 8th of February, which is a Tuesday kickoff. So that's only 2 days after AFCON is finished. So yeah, it's going to be a tight and interesting schedule, man. But
I am worried, to be honest. I'm
very worried. Yeah.
But yeah, let's just look at the positives for now.
Okay, now well said, man. Big ups people in the chat again. Like I said, smash the like button if you haven't already, my people. But yeah, I'm going to come to you about Thomas Partey next, actually. Obviously missed the game on the weekend. I believe it was a groin injury, from what I understand, or maybe it was another injury. But does it concern you a little bit in terms of, because we haven't rushed him back, to be fair? I know people are probably critical where there might have been a couple of games where there's like, I'm not sure Thomas Partey should be starting, but he did need minutes, because as much as we want to sort of nurse him back, it's a fine balance that Mikel Arteta has to play, in the sense of he's important to the team and he's integral to the team, but at the same token, he has had a lot of injury worries since he's come to Arsenal, unfortunately. I don't know why, but it just has. Yeah, so let me throw some stats to you. He's appeared in 7 of the Premier League games. Tackle success rate 79%, 35 recoveries, 26 duels won, passes per match 40.71. He's had some very, very good games this season, and you can see why he's so important. But it is a little bit of a concern in terms of his body and breaking down, unfortunately. So where are you with his performances? Probably not just this season, mate, since he's joined, and obviously another injury concern on top of that.
Yeah, obviously it has been quite turbulent for sure. But for me, he is an exceptional talent. I think Thomas Partey is by far our most talented midfielder, hands down. I think we all know that. And he's integral to the way that we function. And for me, he's had some very good performances this season. I think he's been very consistent. I think if we go to his first season, obviously there were inconsistencies there for sure. But 100%, I don't think we can deny that. But I think, again, it's all about applying context. Even the great players, some of them take a lot longer to adapt to a different league and the challenges that it presents. I think with regards to Thomas Partey's injury record, and obviously, as fans, you look at it, he's missed a lot of games. You think, oh, another player who comes to Arsenal and immediately starts to get a lot of injuries, because Partey was pretty much faultless before coming to Arsenal. But I think when you do break it down, I talked to someone, a doctor actually, who does really good work, Dr. Rajpal, who's on Twitter as well. And we talked quite a bit about it. And I think when you look at the first season, it was a challenge to the whole world, with COVID and how there were so many games within a short space of time. And when you look at Partey coming from La Liga to the Premier League, the physicality, the pace, the intensity of that, along with a significant amount of games that were being piled on him, I think it's kind of fair to say that that's what took his toll on him, rather than actually him being an injury-prone player coming to Arsenal. And I think Mikel Arteta as well. I think, Albert, that I'm a massive fan of him. But at the same time, I don't think he managed him really well in certain spells last season. You look at the Tottenham game where he clearly wasn't ready to play that game. And he actually had a tight groin in that one as well. That was the injury he had going into it. And then, it became an injury that ruled him out for a longer period of time. So actually, I'm happy that he actually left him out this weekend, because we don't want to mess around with these kind of injuries.
No, absolutely.
Obviously, you're going to be frustrated, like, oh, where's Thomas Partey? Why is he not playing today? But let's not look at the here and now. Let's look at the longevity. Let's save him, let him recover, and then he's going to have a better chance of staying fit for a longer period of time. So I think the niggles and the inconsistency he had was coming from the fact that he's adapting to the new league along with COVID, but also Mikel Arteta not managing him to the best level that he could have. And he certainly, I think, showed his inexperience there from a managerial point of view in terms of how he handled him. But I think this season he's done the right thing in allowing him to kind of, rest for the international break, then come back hopefully for the game against Liverpool at Anfield. But yeah, in terms of his performances, I think he's been outstanding when he's played this season. He's so important in terms of allowing us to progress forward, accessing the final third with those line-breaking passes that he's able to do. And he's so important to the way that we kind of sustain pressure. And what I mean by that is how he's so aggressive in duels, he's high up the pitch, and he's confident in his ability to kind of defend in isolation because he's got the athleticism. Granit Xhaka, for example, for me, is a player who I do admire a lot, but at the same time, we all know his deficiencies. He can't cover space to the level you want your midfielder to be doing. And Partey is someone who can cover the left back when he moves forward, the right back when he moves forward. He's very good in that aspect. So he's an all-round midfielder. He has so much quality, and for me, he's another player who's going to be integral to our season. And if we're going to have any success, if Partey stays fit for a prolonged amount of time, we've got a very good chance of doing well this season.
Yeah, 100%, man. Big up to people in the chat. Very lively again. Whoa. But I'm not complaining, obviously. But people appreciate the feedback and the chat in the chat as you speak. But yeah, I'm gonna bring probably Io in after this when we talk about Martin Odegaard's an interesting one. Rowan, 9 appearances. He's got the 1 goal obviously against Burnley. Passes per match 31.33. Through balls 2. Recoveries 26. What have you what did you make of the fact that we signed him on the permanent very, very quickly? And also to add a bit more context to it, how have you found his form and how he's impacted on the team this season?
Yeah, obviously this is a divided opinion at the moment amongst the fan base. Even when we're playing well, there are always going to be topics that cause debates and conflict as well with regards to what people think of Odegaard. Listen, I think Odegaard is a very talented player. And for me, throughout the summer, I made it quite clear that for me, the creative midfielder I wanted Arsenal to go for wasn't Odegaard, it was Houssem Aouar. I was adamant that he was the guy for me, would have fit this team a lot better than an Odegaard. But obviously that didn't come to fruition and Arsenal went with Odegaard. And by no means I was disappointed with this, because when you consider the fact that, it cost 30 million, the initial fee to bring him in. And you consider the fact that James Maddison, Leicester are notoriously known for acquiring the maximum out of their players. James Maddison, regardless of the form that he's had over the past year and a half, he would have commanded a fee of near 80 million in my opinion.
That's too much,
because of the obviously English tax and the type of profile he is and the way Leicester are very difficult to negotiate. So you consider, I think Odegaard and James Maddison were the 2 big names throughout the summer of who Arsenal were going to go for. Emi Buendia, of course, early as well, but that kind of fizzled out quite immediately when Villa signed him. But Odegaard and Maddison were the 2 that were heavily linked. So when you consider actual value and each player, Odegaard, without a shadow of a doubt, would have been the player I would went for. So I was happy that they signed him in the end. And I think this season, for me, he obviously has been indifferent. The game against Norwich, I thought he had a good game in that one. And Burnley, straight after, he played a different role. He played a little bit deeper alongside Thomas Partey in that game, where he was effectively coming in for Xhaka. He played that Xhaka role essentially, and in terms of helping us through the left-hand side, progress forward. And he obviously scored the pivotal goal in that game, the free kick. But don't hide the fact that he was actually the guy who instigated that move. He played that pass to Saka that broke the lines, and that allowed him to drive forward, and then Saka eventually gets pulled down, and then Odegaard scores the goal. So I thought he played very well in those two games. Tottenham as well, I thought he went under the radar. It was a collective effort, and I thought Odegaard did very well. But there have been obviously games where he has struggled. Brighton away from home, I thought it was a poor display from him. Palace as well. But I think, again, it's another situation where, for me, I don't think Mikel Arteta's utilised him in the best possible way in those games. Against Brighton, like I said, in the game against Burnley, he played him in that Xhaka role. But for me, I don't like him personally in that role. I want him to be playing further forward in that number 10 right half space position where we effectively signed him for. That's the role we wanted him to play, and that's where I want him to be playing consistently. And Arteta played him the left side of the midfield pivot against Brighton, didn't do very well. Against Palace, we played, for me, the first time it was a proper 4-3-3, a kind of a Pep Guardiola, and I've never wanted us to go for this formation personally because we don't have the personnel to simply do it. On paper, obviously everyone looks at it and thinks, two creative midfielders alongside Thomas Partey, naturally we're going to be creating more chances. No, but we just don't have the personnel to play this, and Odegaard for me doesn't suit that as well. So he didn't play well in that game, but at the same time, I don't think he was deployed correctly. But I think in terms of Odegaard's actual individual improvements, I think for me, one thing he needs to do a lot better is how he receives the ball in between the lines under contact. Because when he is pressured, he loses the ball too easily for me. He needs to shield it more. And this is why I liked Hossein Mawar, because when you watch him for Lille, when he has players around him, similarly to the way Emile Smith-Rowe does, someone goes close to Emile Smith-Rowe, bang, he's on the half turn, he's gone past you. Odegaard struggles in those moments. And also, I think with Odegaard, with him being naturally left-footed, when he's playing as that creative midfielder, he can't go in to out consistently. And I think that's what we needed someone to do, because there's a heavy reliance on Bukayo Saka to effectively go on the inside, but on the outside as well. And of course, Tomiyasu at times, when he's got that opportunity to go forward, he's going to have to provide that width. And Odegaard can't do that because he's left-footed and he's very dominant with that foot. He always wants to come inside. So there are obviously weaknesses within his game and weaknesses that kind of hamper the way we kind of go forward in the final third. But without a shadow of a doubt, I think we've got to give him a lot more time. He's a young player. He has the qualities are clearly there. I remember the game against Palace last season. He comes on, he plays that eye the needle pass for Martinelli. And he's had other games as well where he's provided a good influence. So let's give him time, because in the last two games where he's came on in these cameo performances where we've needed a little bit more control, he's done a good job. Definitely it's been indifferent, but at the same time, let's give him a bit more time because he is a class player.
No, Ryan, good shouts. One thing I want to say to you, obviously I mentioned sort of between Sambi Lokonga, Erdogan and Thomas Partey, and bear in mind, people, I'm talking about the Premier League here, not the whole of the season. No big chances created and no assists. That's in the Premier League. And that's all three of them combined. So that is obviously a huge worry. But I generally just feel, in terms of when I sort of laid out the players that we have in terms of our, inverted commas, midfield, and the guys that we're gonna have to rely on for this season, to be honest with you, unless something of a miracle happens in January or we've got to later prepare for the summer. It's a huge concern. I didn't realize that. I actually thought sometimes you take the games for granted because you're wrapped up in your euphoria of getting 3 points. So when you sort of break it down and look at sort of, Rowan, those are two major stats, like in terms of big chance of creating
this season, for Arsenal, obviously creativity is an area that we do need to improve on for sure. And I think the way that we have kind of created chances this season has come from, us sustaining pressure and winning duels high up the pitch and then just kind of forcing the issue, and a lot of our good moments have also came from set pieces, which Nicolas Jova has done a great job at.
Yes, a fantastic job.
I know we're not obviously going to discuss this in detail, but I do want to speak highly about this guy because for me, he's been one of our signings of the season. You know, the work he's done throughout his time in Manchester City as well. I think he came from the Brentford setup as well. He's been brilliant because attacking wise, for me, creativity comes in all different formats. It's not just someone playing this Özil pass. That's everything. It's, you know, you can create chances by, you know, pressing from the front foot the way Liverpool do, the way that their midfielders kind of hunt the ball down, they win the ball high up the pitch, and they create chances from transition moments. And you can also create from set pieces. Look at West Ham, you know, look at them, the amount of goals that they're scoring from set pieces and the threat that they pose. And this season as well, Nicolas Jova has been influential. I think we've scored the most goals from set pieces this season.
Very important. Yeah, very important.
You know, when you consider Arsenal last season, I think in the Premier League, from the top of my head, I can think of 3 goals we scored.
There weren't many, man. Trust me.
It wasn't many. I think the first one came on the opening day with Gabriel as well against Fulham. So, you know, it's an area that we desperately needed to improve on. And I think it kind of helps us because of the fact that we are struggling to create high volume chances and clear cut chances. He's been fantastic. You know, defensively last season, we were actually the best team in terms of defending set pieces. So credit to Andreas Georgesson last season, and Nicolas Jova's kind of kept that up as well because we haven't been looking under threat in these situations as well. So obviously not the topic that we're discussing, but definitely giving a lot of credit, Nicolas Jova.
Yeah. Let me be a little bit fair to the midfield. I'll give them a little latitude because obviously there may be chances that they actually did create, but we haven't finished our chances. So that has to be, I have to make that very, very clear because I can't just, but those are the facts in terms of chances created and assists, which are very important. But at the same token, there are games, even stretching back to last season, where we missed a lot of chances. And that was with Aubameyang in the team, that was with Lacazette in the team. The strikers, to be honest, last season, and we spoke about it last week, Rowan, in terms of if you look at Arsenal's goals scored for in the last 3 seasons, it is way down.
Yeah,
it's a down quite a bit. So let me be fair to the midfield players. So don't just let them do. But yeah, it's an important, 2 very important stats in terms of, you know what, we're not in the minus in terms of goal difference anymore. I think we're on 0 now. So
game skewed it so much, didn't it? It's so annoying. Yeah.
Ryan, before I bring Io in, I want to talk about the game a little bit before we talk about a potential midfield player that Arsenal, I think, should potentially look at if they haven't already. But just quickly, your thoughts on the other 2 guys in terms of Elneny and Maitland-Niles. It's a tough one to sort of pose a question to you because if I was to do it in pure layman's terms, in terms of Mohamed Elneny, he does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go above or below. You're gonna get maybe 6 out of 10s every week, or for the cameo minutes that he's gonna play. I don't know how much of influence he's gonna be on the team. Probably more so if we're in winning positions and we want to see out the game. Hence the reason why he came on the other night on Sunday. I thought it was a very good time to bring on Erdogan. By the way, at the time we did, I thought we was losing a bit of control a little bit in terms of the midfield, but. Yeah, to be fair play to Maitland-Niles, actually. Him, for me, Tomiyasu and Ben White were outstanding. And again, you touched on the key thing, what Maitland-Niles will give you. Yes, he's very sloppy in possession. He is. He just has that in his game. I don't think he's ever going to lose that. But because of his mobility, he got round the pitch and made some very vital interceptions and was it sort of playing in that Xhaka in terms of sort of introverted left back in, you know, when we sort of out of possession. But how do you think, what would your 2 quick thoughts be about Mohamed Elneny and Ainsley Maitland-Niles?
Yeah, I think quickly with Elneny, obviously, like you say, it is what it says on the tin with him. But I actually think I've been a little bit disappointed with Elneny this season. Not in terms of obviously the sample size isn't big because he hasn't been playing games consistently. He's only played a couple. But in pre-season, you know, one thing we know about Elneny is the fact that he is secure on the ball. You know, he doesn't give it away cheaply. But if you watch the games back, you know, against Watford, he gets dispossessed in his own box. That was the goal that Watford scored in that game. And that was a surprise because usually Elneny is not going to give you those progressive characteristics that you want in a midfielder. No. One thing he can do is he can recycle the ball and he can keep it ticking at a certain tempo. and he can give you a little bit of control. But I don't think he's been very secure since pre-season, because there was, again, in the game against Chelsea in pre-season, he was giving the ball away in really sloppy areas that usually Elneny doesn't do. And you go to the Leeds game as well, where for me, Ainsley Maitland-Niles completely outshined him in that game, where Elneny, for me, wasn't secure on the ball and was giving it away cheaply. So I've been a little bit disappointed with him, because I felt that with Xhaka going out, I thought maybe Partey and Elneny is our most balanced midfield pivot, and Elneny kind of gives Partey the platform to flourish. But at the same time, when I actually think about it, Elneny hasn't been playing to the best level that I expect of him. And with Ainsley, I think we've got to give a lot of credit to this boy, because, in the summer, we were obviously quite frustrated that, Arsenal didn't manage to move him on. But at the same time, when we looked at the offer that Everton had, it was a loan with potentially another loan. It was a 1 year loan, and then the potential to extend that year again. But his contract runs out in 2023. So I don't know how that works. So I thought Arsenal did the right thing in terms of keeping him. And I think he's always kind of made it very well known that he is a central midfielder by trade. That's where he played when he was a youngster, and that's where he wants to play. Right back, obviously, that's where he's played primarily at Arsenal, and I think he's had so many opportunities to make that position his own. And I felt that, for me, when you're playing for a club like Arsenal Football Club, you kind of just, you play where you're told to play, and you try and make it your own. But he was adamant that he wanted to play in central midfield, hence why he went to West Brom, because Sam Allardyce did say that he had offers, I think, from Leicester and Southampton to play at fullback.
And he didn't want to.
Yeah, he didn't want to, and that's why he went to West Brom. And for me, he didn't do very well there. He got dropped after, I think, 4 or 5 games in that team as well. Obviously, the style of football doesn't kind of help him, but at the same time, you want to play midfield. There aren't many options out there. You had a chance and you didn't kind of take it. But this season, I think he's been very good. In the game against Norwich, where he started, I thought he was very good. And the Leeds game, another really good performance. And against Watford, funnily enough, for me, my top 3 performers were Ainsley, Ben White, and Tomiyasu. And I think Ainsley,
well said.
When you consider the fact that he hasn't been playing consistently week in, week out, whereas the other 2 have, I think you've got to give him man of the match because of the performance he provided. And obviously, my frustration with Ainsley is the fact that his concentration levels at times aren't there. Very sloppy in possession.
Very, very.
Yeah, but he was a lot more composed on the ball. Watford, and there was a moment where a pass was played to him and there was someone pressing him, but he was aware of his surroundings. He kind of turned him and then he went forward, and that was really good to see. And Ainsley, in terms of defensively, we know he's a good defender because he's played at right back in this defensive role, and he's nullified some of the top attackers out there, lots of Wilfred Zaha, he's nullified Marcus Rashford in the past. So there's never been a question for me with regards to Ainsley's athletic capabilities and the way he can kind of cover space. It's the way he handles himself on the ball. And he's another player who could be pivotal during the AFCON, and very happy with him. Obviously the sample size is small, but encouraging signs for sure.
No, well said. Yeah, he's he has a big part to play. He does. It's a very big part to play. Ayo is patiently waiting in the background. I'm going to bring him in because I want to talk about another win for the Arsenal on Sunday. Ayo, I'm going to bring you in, bro. Yes, you're mute. You're mute. Ayo, that's it.
Yo, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. We can hear you.
Yes.
Welcome aboard, man. Good to see you, man. It's been a while.
Good to see you guys as well, man. Sorry about last week. It was a bit of a, you get me, technicality on my side. Yeah, man.
It's all right, man.
To me.
It's all love, man. I know you're a busy young man, but I'm glad to get you on, man. It's actually nice to get you on to speak to you because I haven't spoken to you for a while, and obviously a lot's happened with Arsenal in terms of a recent resurgence so far, people, in inverted commas. We're picking up wins, and before I ask you sort of about the game on Sunday, but also kind of what you've seen in the last 8 games, I'll give you a few stats before I bring you in, bro. So last 8 Premier League games for Arsenal, we ranked first in wins and clean sheets, 6 wins, 5 clean sheets. We ranked second for goals conceded 4, and that's largely, hugely down to our defensive 5-back unit. We ranked in terms of third in the league for that, shots on target 45, and joint third for goals scored 13. We sit 5th in the league currently, 2 points behind Liverpool in 4th. So Ayo, at the start of the season and where you see Arsenal now, how much of a surprise has that been to you, and what has pleased you about Arsenal, and what do you feel still needs to be worked on?
Can I be so honest with you, bro?
Yeah, of course you can, man. That's what
let me be so honest with you. Those all stats you just broke, that's all catfish, bro. They've catfished us with those results, bro. I'll be so honest with you. We're not that good, bro. We're up against teams that we should be beating anyway. If I'm being completely honest with you, like Aston Villa didn't set up well. We're obviously gonna we had to slap them. If we didn't, you get me. But I'm not phased by all of this. I'm still waiting for a proper result. Even Tottenham, people are getting gassed over Tottenham. No, Tottenham, they'll get slapped by every. They're getting passed around the man. You get what I'm trying to say? They were getting passed around, just getting slapped everywhere. You get what I'm trying to say? So obviously, I wasn't phased by that one. I'm not phased by all of this, man. Of course, we're scoring goals, but if you're looking at the quality of the goals, it's not really. I don't know how to describe. Obviously, we're scoring goals, and goals. We need goals to win games, innit? But the goals that we're scoring, I don't know. They're not really. I kind of also like the defense. I think that's most of the reason why we're winning. We're winning these games. Without this defense, Gabriel and Ben White, I'd start the season. I was very iffy about Ben White. I was very iffy, but he's turned into a bit of a little partnership, little tag team thing with Gabriel. So I'm thinking, wait till Saliba comes back. Maybe they can do. Maybe Arteta will switch around the whole thing. I'm hearing you want to give him game time and all that. But other than that, just to answer your question, because I think I've gone way off topic.
No, that's right. Go on. You see, before you come back, sorry, with Ben White, for example, because he's been a talking point for a lot of Arsenal fans. I don't know if you see my views about him and Rowan's, but I just think, look, he's been playing. It's not like this guy's been playing in a different league and we don't watch him every week. He's been involved in English football for a while. He's not an unknown quantity. So I was a bit surprised with sections of the fan base that still sort of question him. But so my question to you really is, what's your reservation still, if you do have any, about Ben White?
The reservation comes strictly off the 50 million price tag they paid for him. Obviously, he will never be worth the 50 million, but what I want to know what Arteta saw in Ben White and what he didn't see in Saliba to make him say, yes, I'm going to slap 50 million on him and he's going to play instead of Saliba, send Saliba out on loan. I'm still looking to see what Saliba doesn't have that Ben White has. Saliba has the height and the strength over Ben White. To be honest, I have nothing against the guy. It's not his fault we bought him for 50 mil. I'm questioning Arteta and why he said, let's bring him in for 50 million and let Saliba go out on loan. That's the only thing. I'm just trying to see the standout difference that only Arteta seems to see and that I just can't see.
I'm gonna come back to you with that. Ron, I'm gonna bring you in. With Saliba, like, just quickly about him, because I don't want to sort of lose focus from what we're going to talk about. But I think with Saliba, it's not an ability thing. It definitely isn't, in my personal opinion. Do you think with Arteta, in regards to that, not so much to do with Ben White, because I'm not really, Ben White's better than Saliba or Saliba. I haven't got time for that kind of discussion, because at the end of the day, they're two excellent centre backs, and I want them to both succeed at Arsenal. But do you think it's an attitude thing as to why Saliba's not actually played regular football at Arsenal under Arteta?
I think for me personally, it's very difficult to kind of judge someone on their attitude, from media-driven stories. I don't think there's not enough confidence for me to say, Saliba has an attitude issue. Whereas with Guendouzi, there is a track record there of this guy, struggling to kind of build, relationships with the manager and players with other teams that he's been at. When he was at Lorient, he had problems at Hertha Berlin as well. And I think with Saliba, obviously for me, I wanted him to stay this season, but at the same time, I felt we did need Ben White. It was pivotal because David Luiz was a guy who I held under high regard because of the leadership he provided, the progressive qualities, and the influence he had on the pitch and off the pitch. With him leaving, we needed someone who kind of come in and could replicate his qualities, but could give more. And Ben White, for me, I've watched a lot of William Saliba, as you know, Albert. I've tracked him for a while now, this season as well, and I'll tell you now that he isn't ready. He isn't ready yet. I think he did need this development season with Marseille. Obviously, I would have preferred him to go out and loan in the Premier League because that would have allowed him to, be a little bit more suited in the following season. But there are weaknesses within his game in particular. For me, he's very stiff in terms of when he receives the ball, and that is something that I think he needs to work on, and something that I was discussing with someone else. And in terms of aerially, he does have the frame, but I think that's also a weakness within his game. Whereas Ben White, obviously that Ivan Toney encounter against Brentford kind of brought this perception that Ben White isn't good in the air. But when you actually look at him when he was playing for Leeds and Brighton, he's a very aggressive defender in the air, and he does win a lot of his duels. Look at the game against Burnley, against Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood, two incredibly physical forwards, and he was able to deal with them from a defensive point of view. And so I think Ben White is definitely, for now, he's a better player than William Saliba. He has more experience under his belt. I would have obviously liked to have seen Saliba stay, because I think if we get an injury to a Ben White or a Gabriel, then we really are struggling in terms of quality. And then you have a lot more confidence with a Saliba coming in, because he suits the modern game a lot more than the players that we have in reserve right now, the likes of Mari, for example. So with Saliba, I think he's a very talented player. His ceiling is very high, but I do understand why Arsenal did allow him to go out on loan. Initially, for me, I did want him to stay, but I always like to look at both sides, and I personally understood it. Yeah,
let me come back to Io. Yeah, so it's sort of, when I touched on the earlier question, it's quite a loaded question, but in terms of what you've seen and what you make of Arsenal this season. So is there any particular games where is there any particular games that have impressed you this season, or what's the reservations as to why you say, in terms of maybe some Arsenal fans are getting not too excited probably, but a little bit gassed over certain results?
To answer your first question of games that have impressed me, probably the Villa game. The Villa game probably impressed me a lot, because I saw a team that wanted to. We moved the ball around way better than we usually do. Yeah. We put the ball in the back of the net, something that we have struggled to do. Obviously, from the start of the season, we struggled to score goal that. But I saw a big improvement in that game. Still, I saw a big improvement in that game, because obviously we moved the ball quicker. We also to go on to the Odegaard. I don't know. I keep switching. I'm sorry, but to go into the Odegaard thing, when it comes to ball progression and Odegaard, it doesn't. I don't know what it is for me, but I've been saying in past couple fan cams as well. Like I don't know. He doesn't progress the ball well enough for me. He'll get the ball he'll get the ball, but it seems to be too deep, or he doesn't get in the right positions, and then he'll take 50 touches and then pass it back, or he'll end up giving away the ball or something like. But you get what I'm trying to say, that ball progression needs to be better. It needs to be better from him as well. But obviously Smith Rowe, he's been excelling in these type of games as well. Saka's been doing Saka things. Obviously, started the season he was a bit iffy, but he's been getting into his stride. So scoring goals without Aubameyang, obviously he's been scoring a lot of goals at home, but Aubameyang, when he's been poor and we're still scoring goals, it's when I'm saying, oh, okay, cool, maybe we've got some potential there. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But other than that, I think Villa was the game that impressed me personally.
No, so okay, so in terms of, obviously you obviously kind of mentioned. Listen, I don't think it's attributed to you, because I still think, listen, you've got social media, Rowan, you've seen it with Arsenal fans, literally game by game. Some people just go, there's no in between. It's either to the extremes, or it's the ultra complete negative. So Ayo, coming back to you, mate. So what is it that you feel that maybe you might not have seen any improvement in the 8 games, or what do you feel probably still needs to be worked on, that you feel a little bit apprehensive? Is it a defensive side of it? Is it the midfield concerns? Because I know you're listening in the background in terms of the players we're talking about. What is it for you?
It's the creativity for me. It's creativity, and also it's creating enough chances. Like the chances are it will create chances, but the chances aren't good quality enough for us to say, okay, we should be thinking that's clear cut. It's rarely I'll ever see in a game a proper clear cut chance that one of our strikers or the person we want in that position to get. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Aubameyang hasn't been scoring because obviously he's had chances that he should have finished, but those type of chances don't come often enough for him. You get what I'm trying to say? We need to start providing opportunities for our strikers. we're not it looks too stale. The football looks so stale for me. It looks boring. It looks horrible. Started the season, I was so close to stop watching Arsenal because of the horrible football we were playing. I couldn't stand watching it. Like, until we played Tottenham, I thought we played the worst football in the league. It was so horrible and stale, and the way we moved the ball.
It weren't great to watch. I'll give you that.
It was not great to watch, my bro. It was not great to watch at all. Like, yeah, it's been a problem with Arteta still. Obviously after we won the FA Cup that season, that's the whole season there. We just struggled to score goals, and now this season it's been the same thing. Like the goal we scored against Watford, that was probably that chance. It wasn't clear cut enough for me to say, okay, we're creating enough chances for our guys to score. But obviously Smith for a good finisher. But if he didn't score that goal, I don't think we're scoring a goal in this game. I'll be so real. I don't know if we're scoring a goal in that game. But other than that, man, yeah, man.
No, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back to you, Aaron, in a minute. I'm gonna ask you kind of the same question, really. In terms of sort of Arsenal sort of creating chances and scoring goals, I mentioned, like I touched on earlier and last week, that in terms of our goals scored in the last 3 seasons, it's way down. It's too far down for my liking. And again, that touches with the creativity, as you mentioned, in terms of assist and big chances created in terms of coming from our midfield is not great. But then I'll partly take into consideration that some of the chances we have created, some of the strikers again haven't finished their dinner, as they like to say. But do you think that in regards to the fact that we have a young side, and sometimes I think with the Premier League, if you look at some of the results in the last few weeks in terms of Rome, you mentioned it excellently in the last few weeks in terms of there's not going to be many teams that are either going to dominate or win a succession of games in a row, because whether it be opposing teams doing 2 banks of 4 or 5 at the back or parking the bus, it's not easy. I'll be honest with you. I was at the Watford game on Sunday, and I said to my guy who came down from Manchester, big up Guna Souls, first game of the Emirates. I said to him, the start of the second half, I will take 1-0. I will take 1-0 because you sometimes you've got yes, we had 2 disallowed goals and a missed penalty, but sometimes when you're watching the game at the time, you're thinking, you know what? None of this 2 or 3s or 4-0s. I never signed up to that for the Watford game. I didn't think that would happen. I thought it'd be a tough game, and it was. Watford were very physical. But Rowan, coming to you, do you think it's more a case of we have a young side, obviously. That's not always going to be an excuse for every week when I come on here and do this, but do you almost see a sign of there's a sign of maturity there, even with these young boys, to still go out and get the victory against a hard-fought Watford team who, to be fair, didn't really come out to play?
Yeah. I think you make a really good point. I think, we have a very young team, and that front line I spoke about, obviously creativity and, creating those clear-cut opportunities for an Aubameyang to have consistently in the game. That still needs to be developed without a shadow of a doubt. But I think, with the Watford game, we definitely left goals on that pitch. If it wasn't for the cycling GK, we would have been winning that game 3-0. You look at the first half where, Aubameyang, that for me is a clear chance for him. If it's a better touch, he's got an open net. You look at the Gabriel header, 9 times out of 10, that's going in. That's an incredible save. And obviously Odegaard right at the end where, that's going in, post and in. And Aubameyang just, as all strikers do, they want to get on the score sheet and they anticipate. And, it's a moment where they've got a chance of scoring. So we definitely have goals on the pitch for me. But obviously I do agree with the fact that we do need to improve on creativity. I think what Mikel Arteta has done really well over the years for me is the fact that defensively, like we spoke about, we are a good team defensively without being a defensive team. And what I mean by that is I think, teams can be very good defensively if they're just sitting very deep for prolonged periods. But what Arteta's done since he's came in is with guys like Socrates, for example, who aren't comfortable on the ball, he's been able to implement a system that's got the best out of them without us being just a team that sits back. And now you're seeing with the likes of Gabriel and Ben White and Tomiyasu, players who are raising that level. You know, we're seeing a lot more quality. So defensively and the way we sustain pressure, I'm really happy with that. But obviously, creativity is something we need to improve, and I completely agree with that. I think it will definitely get better as these guys continue to play games together. You know, I think it's all about partnerships and relationships, because I do see there's the platform there to flourish, but it's just about making the right decisions, and I think that will come with more games.
No, well said. No, great to get you two guys on, man. And people in the chat, thank you again. Your interaction has been brilliant. Smash the like button, people. 72 people watching. Thank you for tuning in on a Tuesday night. So it's much appreciated. Hey, I want to come to you quickly. I want to ask you about Arteta. I see a lot of people go, like, for example, when we lose, it's the players' fault. When we win, Arteta's he's the number one genius. Like, in terms of Arsenal's recent run of games, for example, the eight block, even though you might not be extremely happy totally, but would you give him a bit more credit from what you saw probably the back end of last season coming into this season, or what reservations do you still have about him?
You see, that's the story of Arsenal fans. We love to do that. Anyhow we lose, jump on the players or jump on the manager. But anyhow we win, you get yes, it's Arsenal. Everybody start getting gas. Oh, Arteta's doing his thing now. We're getting back on the horse. Arsenal fans were so, you get me, it's either this or this. There's no like, let's just wait or let's give him time. You get
Good
me?
Point.
But when it comes to my reservation, me myself,
where are you with it?
Don't be like me in it, but me, I'm very much of a person where I've said this now, and you get me. I've got to keep judging him on this standard. Yeah. My standard is very high for Arsenal manager. If you come to be an Arsenal manager, just because you're doing your thing with Pep Guardiola doesn't mean you get exactly. But right now, obviously, back end of last season, I wanted him gone. I'll be so real. Even before I wanted him gone. It was terrible. I was really feeling that same pain I had with Arsene Wenger. What Arsene Wenger put man through. I was really feeling that same pain. I really didn't like it. Obviously now, but started this season, terrible start. Wanted him gone. Same attitude. But he started winning games. He started putting a couple points together, which I thought he couldn't do. Like, I saw the schedule. I was like, yeah. By December, this guy's gone. By November, this guy's gone. You get what I'm trying to say? Everybody looked at our schedule like that because we just couldn't get a goal. We couldn't score a goal. So when it comes to credit, I'm like, no, because this is the Arsenal. This should just be the standard we should have started with at the start of the season. You prepare before at the start of the season. He didn't prepare. So my mom used to say, "Fail to prepare, prepare to fail." I think that's how it goes. Am I right? Yes.
Yeah. You're spot on, right?
Yeah, man. Arteta did not prepare, so he failed. At the start, he was failing. I thought he was gone, but obviously now that he's winning games and that, I still don't. I don't believe in him. I think when you come into a hug, I think when you play United, that's gonna be like, okay, if he loses or draws to United, this guy's he's got a goal still.
We've got a few more games before that, man.
Oh, is it that far away? Is it that far away?
We've got Man United on December the 2nd. I think it is. We've got Newcastle the 27th of November. We've got Everton away in December, and we've got Southampton also at home, sort of early December as well.
Yeah, my calendar is moving a bit jiggy, bro. Don't worry about that, bro. I'm gonna have to sort that one out there, store. Don't worry about that one, bro. Well, yeah,
no, you make a good point, Io, before we move on to sort of the next thing, in the sense of, I was speaking to a couple of Arsenal fans after the game on Sunday. My issue with people's views on Arteta sometimes is don't be wise after the event, right? So, you know, there's a lot of people I know that were, when we lost to Villarreal last season, they want Arteta gone. He's gone. Then they've changed their mind and said that he needs more time. I'm like, well, how do you go from that to that? I don't understand. But just don't be wise after the event. It's still early in the season. Yes, we're on a very good run of form in terms of 10 games unbeaten in all competitions, but this is not the stage of the season for some Arsenal fans to be wise after the event and think that, Arteta's miraculously turned it around. Yes, he's got the team playing well. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's any massive recipe, Rowan and Io, in the sense that it's no coincidence that Arsenal picking up better performances, more points and more wins because he's picking a more settled 11. That's not a coincidence. And that dovetails with the fact that we've got more of a settled back five with the addition of obviously Ramsdale in particular and Gabriel, who sort of, like I said before, bring the aggression and the physicality. And someone mentioned in the chat, we won't be bullied. Watford did it on Sunday. They tried to kick us off the pitch, but we stood up to it. But yeah, guys, now thanks for your opinions about that. But I also want to sort of change sort of tact in terms of, I mentioned about the pros and cons of the midfield, and there's sort of one player I'm going to bring up. Now, you guys might not be familiar with him. He was rumored with, I believe, Man City and Manchester United, sort of in the last year, I'd say so. His name's called Edson Alvarez. He's a Mexican international, 50 caps. He's been in the Ajax team for since 2019. Now, you guys know me in terms of talking about YouTube clips, but they are there for a reason. So we talk about sort of midfield players and players that can probably potentially come in and do a job. Like I said, I don't watch. There's a lot of football out there to watch if you've got the time to do it, people. But I would encourage you. Rowan talked about it last week in terms of Kamara from Marseille. I mentioned Zakaria and Borussia Mönchengladbach. This guy Edson Alvarez, again, in that he can play in a double pivot. We want to come to Rowan before I'll give you a few more stats. Very quick, very mobile, 6'2". When I say 6'2", not in terms of physically imposing, because he's got quite a lean figure, but very good versatility wise in terms of centre back, and play right back as well. And you know what it is? I think in football, it's that CDM role has changed immeasurably. I'm a little bit older than you two guys, just a tiny bit older, a little bit VAT on top. So, the old days of Didier Deschamps when he played, and Claude Makelele and Massimo Ambrosini, the Milan legend, sent CDM, and, Dunga, the great Brazilian captain, World Cup winner. It's not just a case of you stay in that position, you don't move. Like, it's football's advanced 15, 20 years later, or 30 years later even, defensive midfield players, inverted commas, can do way, way more. They can play a centre back or right back. They can be mobile. They're very quick. They're very agile. Great versatility. Very good technical ability. But this guy, people, if you get a chance, like I said, I know you love Arsenal, but there are players out there that can come into our club and do a good job. Whether we get this guy in terms of Edson Alvarez, Brian, come to you, mate. Like I said, been at Ajax, 47 appearances. 24 games last season, 11 games currently this season, had 15 appearances in Champions League at the time he's been at Ajax, 7 Europa League appearances. They say his one weakness is discipline.
Yeah.
He picks up a lot of yellow. Well, in terms of his Ajax career, because I didn't do his whole career because we could be here all day, but in terms of his Ajax career, I think he's got 14 yellow cards and 2 reds. He's very, very, he's very, very tenacious in the tackle. I will definitely say that from the clips I've seen. But so Rowan, coming to you, obviously, I gave you guys a heads up in terms of his name and someone who you want to keep an eye on. Arsenal fans, I encourage you, like I said. Rowan, what have you heard about him, and sort of what have you made of him in terms of the clips I sent you, should I say?
Yeah, I think, we spoke last week about how, midfield is an area that we definitely need to improve on, particularly going into January. Kamara obviously is my pick with regards to who I want, because I follow this guy, I really do enjoy him. But I do also watch Ajax when I get chances to do so, because, I'm a massive fan of Ten Hag. He's a very, very good manager. In terms of, I love the progression throughout his career as well. He's shown naiveties in certain spells early on, but he's definitely growing into a really complete manager. I think with regards to Alvarez, the last 2 games I watched of him were against Dortmund, against Marco Rosa's Dortmund, and this is a good opportunity for a player like him to kind of showcase his quality.
Yeah,
and he's really good, and like I say, in terms of versatility, that's exactly what he is. I think early in his career when he was in in Mexico. You know, I did a bit of research into him, so I didn't know this, but he played, like I said, the centre back and right back a lot.
Right back, yeah.
So initially, obviously, he was playing as that centre back, but now he's kind of molded into a midfielder. And you know, it kind of makes sense because I think when you have a player who plays multiple positions, the chances of them having a wide range of qualities is pretty high. You know, because obviously playing at centre back, you're going to have to be able to bring something to the table that's different to midfield, and then when you're playing midfield, likewise as well. So he's got that versatility. He's very comfortable on the ball as well. So that would definitely be a massive tick for me. You know, when I look at midfielders, you know, obviously people will look at it and think, oh, I need him to be solid defensively first and foremost. No, for me, first and foremost, can you play? Can you be good on the ball? And that's exactly what he does. He likes to receive. He takes a lot of touches in the game, and that's a massive, massive plus for me because if you go to the City game, for example, you know, and someone who I don't think gets the credit that he should be getting is Rodri. You know, he is a very, very good player because he always gets around 100 to 110 touches on the ball. Obviously, playing for a team like Manchester City, you know, it's going to be a lot higher than other teams. But even when he was at Atletico Madrid, he was always getting on the ball and he just recycles it. He knows when to play it forward. So I like the fact that Alvarez likes to get on the ball a lot. And like you say, you know, he's very combative. He's quite tenacious in the tackle.
Very.
It can be quite rash. So there obviously will be question marks in terms of how he kind of translates that into the Premier League because obviously teams will target him. He'll be you know, just like the way they did with Granit, you know, early in his career when he was under Arsene, where he was very hot-headed, a lot more than what he is now. Obviously, you still get moments, but Alvarez is an interesting one. You know, he's got a lot of qualities, like you say, discipline is obviously the weakness. I think his contract runs out in 2025, so I think if you were looking to bring him in, it'll be a hefty fee.
Yeah.
Ajax, you know, I love the project that they have there, the way, you know, they prioritize the youth. They allow the players to come through. You know, like Gravenberch, someone just mentioned, a very, very talented player. And he looks a promising talent. Definitely someone I would prefer than a Zakaria personally. But I think, you know, in terms of whether Arsenal bring him in January, it'll be probably very slim considering the amount that's going to need it. That's why, you know, I target Kamara because, you know, his contract runs out at the end of the summer. You know, he has a lot of experience under his belt already at such a young age. He's a leader for that Marseille team and he plays consistently and will suit what we need in midfield as well. So, I like Alvarez. Would definitely be difficult to bring him in, but looks a promising player.
Yeah, no, well said. I'm going to quickly get your thoughts on. I want to finish up and talk to you about. I want to talk about a certain ex-manager of ours who's made some revelations recently. But like I said, people in the chat have mentioned Alvarez. I think he's someone we should look at. It'll be difficult, not so much in terms of January, but I think he'd be very difficult to get because from what I've seen, he's a very, very good player, man. Very, very good player. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much you know about him. Like I said, I'll give you a little pre-warning in terms of talking about him. But yeah, maybe somebody that we want to keep an eye on and, you know, see the qualities he probably might bring to Arsenal. But yeah, what's your thoughts, my friend?
Can I be so honest with you? The only the maximum information I know about my man is that he plays for Ajax and the highlights that he showed me, bro. The highlights that he showed me, obviously highlights can make the amount of highlights I've watched over my Arsenal. All I do as an Arsenal fan is watch highlights, bro. Bro, it's been a struggle, man. Bro, it's been bro. And so I was just watching this guy's highlights. I was like, fam. And then you just told me the yellow and red card thing. Bro, that just looks like another Granit Xhaka in disguise. No, obviously that's a bit harsh on my man. I can't really be saying that. It's a bit harsh. He could be a baller, but it's so rude.
Yeah,
bro.
When I mentioned sort of these like the yellow cards, that's over effectively a 3-year period.
3 years. All right, nah. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, okay, cool. Don't worry. What's it called? Yeah, man. He looks like he's good on the ball. He's very good on the ball. It's what we need. It's what we need right now. Someone that can that's good on the ball, that can defend. Because I think right now we're lacking, apart from Partey, right now we're just lacking a proper back, like not even backup, someone that can even be there with him. I thought Lokonga would be that guy. He's really apart from it's too early. It's too early for Lokonga. But right now, Lokonga is a good passer of the ball. He looks like him and Partey are quite similar. Apart from the defensive side, I don't think Lokonga is really on that. But that's what I'm saying. Maitland-Niles, he could be when it comes to his athleticism, his tackling, he could actually be a very good midfielder for us if we just pattern his maturity on the ball and where he received it. Yeah, if you sort that out, I think he could be an excellent midfielder for us. But when it comes to this Edson of Alvarez, I don't think I can comment on him bringing, especially with the large three guys are talking about as well. Oh, bro, we got what Brock on there, bro.
Yeah.
What's he broke?
Yeah.
What's he broke for that, bro?
We've all kind of had, over the years, always watch highlight reels, and in the end, it doesn't come really to fruition. That's why, for me, like for example, I spoke about Tommy Asu last week, Albert, where we were linked with him initially. I thought, okay, forget the highlight reels. I don't look into those because it's just pointless for me. Obviously, a certain feel for it, but you're never going to be able to get a confident opinion out of there. So I always try and watch at least 3 games of 90 minutes. Usually when we're linked with a player, and I've seen a bit of Alvarez, not loads, but definitely he looks a talented player.
Yeah,
I think he played in the Champions League as well when they beat.
He did.
I didn't watch that game. I'll be so real, but yeah, and you probably played.
Yeah, he did play. He did play.
Yeah,
but no, listen. Like I said, he's a kind of player that Arsenal should be looking at. If it's not, like I said, if it's not him, you got there's the talent pool in the market is out there. There are players available in different positions. Tommy Yasu's proved that with Arsenal buying him. So, but yeah, guys, I sort of want to finish up. Don't want to keep you too long. So I don't want to. But the last one I want to talk to you about is, I only came across it by accident. In terms of Wenger spoke recently, apparently, that he felt he should have left Arsenal a lot sooner than he did. And he reckons probably about 2007, 08, 07. He reckons he should have. He's had the opportunities we know about in terms of leave. He could have left Arsenal. I just want to quickly get you guys' thoughts on hearing Wenger say that. It's triggered a few people, I must say, from what I've seen. But yeah, I'm going to come to Ayo quickly first. But what's your thoughts when you sort of saw that sort of piece by Wenger about saying that he should have left Arsenal earlier than he did?
So obviously, I didn't start supporting Arsenal till, obviously, I've said before, Nicholas Bentner times. You get me? Nicholas Bentner. I'm seeing Sebastian Squalacci at the back. I'm seeing all these little joke men playing in my team, and that's the time. I'm not part of the Thierry thing. So Arsene Wenger put me through a lot of pain, man. A lot of pain. Like the stuff he used to say as well. Like, this guy, he obviously I had to respect him because what he done for us.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but when I became Wenger out, I was only like 30, 40 when I became Wenger out. Like, I was really young. Like, it was when we lost, when we got slapped. You get slapped all the time. But when we got slapped by Chelsea, what was that, 6-0? Or when we got beat by United 8-2.
On his 5th game in charge, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so he got slapped by United. That's when I became Wenger. So when he's saying, "Oh, I could have went to these teams," it's the same thing when he's saying, "We could have signed Ronaldo. We could have signed these guys."
Yeah,
he's just making. He does say some of these things, and it's just like, bro, why didn't you just? You love Arsenal too much, bro. He should have just gone, bro. He should have just gone. From when we beat Hull City in the FA Cup, he should have just gone. You get me? You take a high. But you went in such a low way. It was very. He went in a bad way, and that I'll be so real, bro. That's his fault, man. But respect to him, what he's done for the club. But
yeah, no, you put it a little bit late, yeah, for to go and say it. But Ryan, let me come to you. What was your thoughts when you heard Wenger say that?
Yeah, first of all, I love Arsene Wenger. He was the guy for me who I learned so much from football. Like Ayo says, I didn't manage to obviously watch the Invincibles week in, week out. I was very young, but I've actually managed to watch most of those games, the full 90 minutes back of that Invincible season and the 01-02 season where we went the whole season without losing a game away from home, which was incredible. And for me, he's such a inspirational figure in terms of what he did, not just for Arsenal, but the English game when he came in and how advanced he was, in terms of dietaries and nutrition. And that's why I say he revolutionized the game in England and how advanced he was. And then you have Pep Guardiola, for example, who revolutionized the game in terms of how he used Johan Cruyff's principles of total football and then molded it into his own way. So these are the two influential figures for me. And for Arsene, I I was one of those people who felt that he did stay for far too long. I believe that you can respect someone and for me, when I went to the games as well, I could never sing Wenger out. I could just never do it. But in my heart, I always felt that 2014, like I said, was the perfect time for him to leave. I don't think 2007, obviously that's when David Dean, left as his role at the club. But I do think that he did really well in terms of giving that club stability going into that phase of trying to transition into the Emirates Stadium. But then obviously there was a time and period after 2012 for me where there were funds there available to spend, and he didn't spend it as wisely as what he could have. 2014, like I said, would have been the perfect time for him to leave because it would have allowed everyone to go out on a high. Because I think with Arsene, his decline, not in terms of from an individual perspective, is the fact that Arsene stayed at a certain level and then everyone else kind of adapts to the modern game a lot more than Arsene. So I don't think he got worse from an individual perspective. I just think that as the game has developed and has more money has got into it and teams are, across the bottom half of the table, have so much more quality, there needs to be more pragmatism in football. And Arsene was very adamant that this is the way I want to play, no matter who I'm playing. We're going to be the team to take the initiative and we're going to be brave. And I admire that, but at the same time, it was his downfall in a certain sense because, we did get rolled over by the top teams who were better than us when we played this way. 6-0 against Chelsea, 4-0 Southampton, 3 Man City, 5-1. Loads, you can remember them. And as each season went on, you could see the decline because the lower half teams recognized this softness with Arsenal. And if you were physical, you could get real joy. And in the end, the last 2 seasons, we struggled massively to get 2 wins away from home in a whole season. I remember we lost to lots of West Brom, Swansea, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Brighton, all these teams, and I think 2014 was the perfect time for him to leave. Obviously, we got close. Not really close. It was a 2-horse race between Leicester and Spurs in 2015-16.
Yeah, we didn't get close, man.
Spurs lost 5-0 to Newcastle on the last day. Fourth position for me. But yeah, I've got so much time for us and I've learned so much from him, but definitely he should have left a lot early. Not 2007. I think that's a bit harsh. I think 2014 would have been perfect for him because I think, a lot of fans still hold him under high regard like myself, but some fans, obviously, those latter years were painful and they were painful for all of us and they can't forget that. And that's why they are a little bit mixed in terms of how they feel about Arsenal. I think if he left in 2014, everyone would have been more on his side.
No, I hear you. I think before we finish up, I'll say my piece. So, I just think, it's Io touched on it. Like, there's things he would come out and say, particularly after he left Arsenal. I'm like, I'd rather say nothing to say anything at all about. But I just think, he says that now, but I just think, the powers that be at Arsenal, Wenger didn't own the club, and it should have been taken out of his hands. That's my issue. The conversation should have been had in terms of whether they might have tried to turn and say, Arsene, please stay, or give us one more season, but you know what? Like I said, there were people of a much senior position at Arsenal that should have taken that position out of his hands because no manager at any football club should have that amount of power. I don't care how good he is. So that's all I'll say on that. But people, we've come to the end of the show. I want to big up RJ Arsenal blog and Io for coming on. Io, thank you for coming on, brother. Where can the people find you, my friend?
Follow my Instagram, Ayo Black, the same app that you can see on the screen here. But yeah, man, thank you for having me, Albert, man. Thank you.
No worries, man. It's good to get you on, man. Yeah, brings a smile to our face, man. Trust me. And obviously, Rowan, thank you again for coming on the show. Tell the people where they can find you for your fantastic stuff, my friend.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at RJ Arsenal blog. Like I said, I write freelancing for Football London. I do bits for Arsenal Review and Gunners Town as well. And I just love Arsenal Football Club. I love football in general. And I'd like to say I'm quite opinionated, but I always listen to everyone else. For example, I'm a massive fan of Mikel Arteta, but I'm not someone who will never not criticize him. If you follow my stuff, you'll know that I've given him a lot this season, a lot of criticism. And rightly so for me personally. But if you want to follow, just that's the handle.
People, you heard it. Go and follow my amazing guest, man. Guys, thank you for tuning in again. The chat was very, very lively. Get in your virtual waves goodbye now because it's Lee Judges TV. Again, thank you, Dan and Lee, for the opportunity. People, as your host for Albert's Talking Points, Albert JTV. I do have my own channel The link should be in the description, but I'm very, very easy to find on my Twitter, as you can see next to my name, Albert J TV, at AUMO57. Like I said, go and follow Rowan, go and follow IO on Instagram. People, that is Lee Judges TV. Over and out, Albert's Talking Points. See you soon, people.